engaging celebrity interviews, exciting updates from Christian filmmakers, movie reviews so you can choose your movies wisely, and so much more here on Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faith on Film. I'm so glad you've tuned in today. Holly, how you doing?
Very different kind of show. I'm doing great, first of all. Very different kind of show today, Isaac. We're going to be talking to a musician who I've known for years. You've known. He's been in the music world for a long time and with quite a few famous people. And he's written a book about his life and his start from his mother. Maria's Scarf is the name of the book. But tell about his credits. Tell who this guy is.
This might take a long time here because listen to this. Now, he has toured and recorded with Lenny Kravitz, Bobby Brown, Frankie Valli, and the Four Seasons. You have to be our age to know who that is. The new edition, Jody Watley, Philip Bayley of Earth, Wind, and Fire, Sean Lennon, oh my gosh, Lisa Marie Pressley, Lincoln Brewster, Phil Kagi, and many more. As a matter of fact, did you know that sometimes he was known as the Minister of the Groove?
The Minister of the Groove. And what's even cooler is his name is Zoro.
I know.
Zorro. And he's going to tell you how he got that name when we interview him. But yes. We have a trailer, don't we, to take a look at?
Yes, we do. Let's take a look at the trailer for his book.
When I was 7 years old, my mother knelt down beside me, tied her orange silk scarf around my neck, and whispered, "One day, my precious son, you will do something phantasmical with your life." With those words, my fate was sealed. Now, 50 years later, it's time I share my story. A story about the power of a mother's words to transform a child's future. I would go from surviving the rough streets of Compton to living among the elite in Beverly Hills. From dodging eviction notices to traveling around the globe with the world's wealthiest people. Though I would go on to become a world-renowned drummer, my story is really not about drumming. It's about dreaming and overcoming insurmountable obstacles to make those dreams come true. It's a love story between a mother and a son, an immigrant woman who came from Mexico to the United States to make a better life for her children. A single mother who raised 7 children alone in pursuit of the American dream. It's a story about a family's unbreakable bond and their struggle to survive fatherlessness, economic hardship, and racism. It's a story about a quirky, hilarious, and tenacious kid who refuses to give up on his dream. Part sinner, part saint, but all heart in his epic quest for significance. And it's a story about the power of friendship and how those who believe in us help to shape the course of our lives. Now more than ever, we need stories of hope and triumph, stories that bring out the best in humanity and remind us what matters most. Universal stories of love, perseverance, and the power of dreaming big. A story that kneels down beside you and whispers in your ear, "One day, brave soul, you will do something phantasmical with your life."
Well, we want to welcome Zoro. It's so good to have you on the show, old friend. How are you?
I am great. Great to see you, Holly. We've known each other a long time. This is fun to connect.
Time. We have known each other a long time. And it's funny because I was talking to Isaac. He's like, I'm trying to remember where I first met him. Isaac, do you remember?
We were talking about that before we started the show, and we came up with all sorts of possibilities, but I don't remember which one. That's what happens when you get this old.
Well, no, you know what happens is when you have 25, 30 years of being in the industry and the business, and you're at a lot of interviews in a lot of places, we all have had that experience. So I just want to say I'm excited because you contacted me and said you have a new book, Maria's Scarf. So we're going to get into that in just a little bit, which is another part of your career. But
Yep.
I think
Yes.
you had a question you wanted to ask him before we start.
Yeah, because I'm just a very curious guy, and I know we've got a lot to talk about with your book and all that. But what I want to know is, how did you come up with the name Zorro? How did you name yourself that?
That's a very good question. Well, that actually goes all the way back to and I talk about this a little bit in the memoir, but it actually goes all the way back to my childhood. I grew up in Compton, California, and I grew up in a very sort of underprivileged area. And we did a lot of shenanigans in my neighborhood. And one of them was, I was only like 7 or 8 years old, but, I wanted to go snitch some candy out of a store. I didn't have the money, so I wore a Zorro mask, thinking they wouldn't recognize me. Even though I had a cowlick like alfalfa,
Wow.
and I was totally recognizable. So and it was a Halloween mask. So it kind of started with that. And then when I was around 21, just before I got my big gig with the New Edition, my mother had got me this Mexican gaucho bolero hat, and I started wearing it around LA for all my gigs and club gigs and stuff. And then she said, "You should call yourself Zorro, but give yourself one R because you're like the real Zorro. The real Zorro always had a heart for the underdog, and so he fought for the rights and the privileges of the underprivileged and the marginalized." And so I took her advice, and then I just started calling myself Zorro, and I became Zorro after that. And then I legally changed my name, and I never looked back. But now in the memoir, I do tell you what my birth name is, and then and I tell you throughout the whole story, then eventually how I become Zorro. But yeah, that's what it was. It was my mother's influence, and she was from Mexico City, and so I'm half Mexican. And I kind of thought, well, I've always liked the Zorro character. It reminds me of when I was a kid with the Zorro mask, and then it felt like half of my heritage. So I just said, yeah, let me roll with that. And so we could thank my mother for many things, but that's one of them.
Oh, wonderful.
In your book, Maria's Scarf, I go back into, like you said, your memoir of how you got started. But why was it called Maria's Scarf?
Well, first of all, my mother's name was Maria. And there's a story I tell in the book, and you can see I'm still wearing a scarf now. And I still wear scarves because I love them, but I also wear them in honor of her. But my mother was a very stylish woman, and so she always wore scarves. And I tell this story in the book, but when I was going in for my second grade school pictures, I didn't want to look like all the other kids. In my mind, I was a budding rock star, even though I hadn't started playing the drums yet, but I was a peacock. I wanted to be different. So I was like, I don't want to be playing like all the other kids and be regulars. And then I said, Mama, I want to wear a scarf like you. I want to look like you. You look like a movie star. And she goes, no, mijo, you can't wear a scarf, man. The kids will beat you up. You don't live in the United States. You don't live in Mexico. You live in the United States. The kids will beat you up. They don't wear scarves here. And I was like, Mama, but like Elvis Presley wears a scarf and Tom Jones wears a scarf. And then she goes, oh, you got me there, mijo. You got me there. So anyway, so she kneels down and she takes her orange silk scarf and wraps it around my neck for my school picture. And then she whispers in my ear, one day, my brave son, my precious son, you will do something phantasmical with your life. So it was kind of like just a moment, like a prophetic moment of a mother decreeing and declaring over her child that you are unique. You are going to do something unique. You are going to be special, and you're going to do something amazing, even though I didn't know what it was and she didn't know what it was. So that is so Maria's Scarf is the title of the book because I was looking for something short. I was looking for something poetic, something that just evokes beauty and also mystery. Like, who is Maria? What is the scarf? I want to know this story. Well, and the scarf is really her really passing one generational blessing to the next and passing sort of a prophetic decree that I would do something amazing with my life. So I can think of no better title than Maria's Scarf. And then on the cover is a picture of my mother in her heyday looking beautiful because she was going to be she was on her way to being a movie star. That's what her thing was, acting in Mexico. And then there's a picture of me, that picture I just described at 7, wearing the scarf next to her. So you see the mother and the son juxtaposed next to each other, and it's a beautiful cover. It's intriguing. It's really, the book is really for mothers. Really, it's for dreamers, for mothers, and I feel like mothers are the unsung heroes of the world. They're the ones that do all the nurturing and the caring and the loving and the encouraging in the world. And it's a story about my mother, but it's for all the mothers out there, really, and it's for anybody who likes to be. It's an overcoming story, so it's for dreamers. It has the feel of a Rocky Rudy, The Blind Side meets Forrest Gump. But I thought Maria's Scarf was a unique title. And incidentally, the publisher, Blackstone, my publisher, they said we get, we change about 90% of the titles that authors give us for their books. And they said once in a blue moon, a title comes along that we fall in love with. And they said that they loved the title Maria's Scarf, which I thought was pretty cool because I wanted to say that, but I didn't know if it would.
Okay, I want to do a shout out to your mother because she was a single mom of 7 kids.
Yes.
Where was your dad? And if it's too long a story, you don't have to go into it. But I'm just saying, single mom of 7 children, that's another accomplishment on her part to make you feel that individual and special when you have so many kids. And
she was an incredible woman who just had a great spirit of faith. She was a strong Christian and had an incredible faith and was an encourager and just optimistic. But yes, she raised 7 children alone. And not only were we alone, fatherless, but we moved around a lot. By the time I was in 4th grade, we probably moved like 30, 40 times,
Wow.
And there was times we moved in my Radio Red Flyer wagon because we didn't have any money for a U-Haul or whatever. So we would move from one apartment to the next in the Radio Flyer with putting boxes and box springs and so the story is really this epic overcoming story of this kid with a dream and how his mother instills in him this dream, and despite what it looks like. And my father abandoned me when I was an infant. And ironically, this is just the providence of God. Ironically, the only thing he left me when he left us, because he basically deserted us, he left a set of bongos. And there's a picture of his bongos in my stroller when I'm about 18 months. And I had no idea that was my prophetic destiny, like the bong, and
Wow.
it's very poetic how God, brings justice to certain situations, right? But I admire her now more than I did even when I was younger, because as you get older, you realize I have 2 children and I'm married. I've been married to my wife, Renee, for 29 years. And I've, had a successful career. And even with 2 children and an incredible mother and wife, it's hard. So I just go, how the heck did my mother not quit, give up, kill herself, or whatever, check out with 7? And I mean, we went from the streets of Compton, the inner city ghettos, and then we moved to Grants Pass, Oregon, which is like, it's like going from the set of Sanford and Son to the Waltons. It's like, so we experienced a lot of hardcore hardship in our life, but at the same time, there was an incredible amount of joy because of her spirit, and that's the spirit that comes through in the book. That's the spirit that will inspire every mother not to give up. And it's for fathers too, because it's just about what you pour into your children,
Now, I'm glad you brought up the bongos, because so far we've been talking about, you as an author and this book that you've written, but you're a musician. I mean, the whole bongo thing, that is part of what launched your career as a musician. And I know that you've worked with some very well-known artists. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that was always, people always ask me, how did you get started playing the drums? And I always just say, it was just God. I mean, God put the desire in me. So all I had to do was be around music, and it's like a magnet. Like when you, it's like all you got to do is be around that particular type of alloy, and you're drawn to it. So the gift of drumming and the gift of rhythm was something that was just inside of me that God birthed in there. And the desire to play was all of my life, but I didn't really get to start until I was 16. I was discovered. I had an after-school job at 16. I was a sophomore in high school, and my after-school job was the janitor at my own high school, which is obviously a humbling job that's not cool for a 16-year-old kid, because when the bell rings, everybody was seeing me vacuuming and cleaning the toilets and, making fun of me and all that. But at the end of that 2-hour job, my last 20 minutes was to clean the band room. I had never played the drums. I had never taken lessons, but I would sneak on the drums and I'd see the sticks and I'd get on there and I'd just jam. No instruction, but I guess I had an ability to play from the beginning, because one day the band director was in there and he discovered me and he caught me, and I thought he was going to fire me because he said, wait right here, I'm going to go get somebody. He comes back with another guy. He goes, play again, kid. Then I played, and they both looked at each other. He goes, kid. He goes, man, you got a rhythmic gift here. We need you in all the school bands. We need you in the marching band, the swing choir, the stage band. Now, mind you, I had been trying to get in the school band program from the 4th grade, but every year I was turned down.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is how I got discovered. I
Wow.
got discovered as the janitor at my high school.
I love that story.
Wow.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
So then you just picked it up by ear then. You weren't really trained then, right?
At that point, I was only playing by ear, but then shortly after that, I began to take lessons from the best local guy in a town called Medford, a guy named Kent Klinkenbeard. So I took lessons, and he was a professional drummer, and he gave me lessons and also became like a mentor. Then, I graduated high school, and I went down to LA. So, yeah, so as far as my music career, I've been super blessed, but the goal was always, as a kid, the dream, and that's why the book's called Maria's Scarf, a memoir of a mother's love, a son's perseverance, and dreaming big, because I was always a dreamer and I had always dreamed of doing these things. And I guess I just believed that they were possible. So in 1983, my first big break was playing with the lead singer from Earth, Wind and Fire, Philip Bayley, the beautiful falsetto guy who sings all the Earth, Wind. And Earth, Wind and Fire was my favorite band of all time. So, and then from there, I went on to play with the New Edition in their heyday. From there, Bobby Brown for many years in his heyday, and then Lenny Kravitz and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and Lisa Marie Pressley, Sean Lennon, lots of people, and a lot of Christians as well. Played for many years with Lincoln Brewster, and I've jammed with everybody from Stevie Wonder to Phil Keaggy to a bunch of different people in between. But yeah, so that to me is the beautiful part of the story, is that all these things the family had to overcome and the kid had to overcome. Eventually, he was able to live out his dream with his faith, the faith of his mother, his friends, and his family. And so that's why it has the feel of like a Rocky, a Blindside, a Rudy, because it has that overcoming feeling in the story and in the book itself. But yeah, it's been a pure joy to be able to play music at that level and express it and give people. There's something great about being a drummer, because you are responsible for bringing a lot of joy to people through the beat. Because everybody's rhythmic, the human race is rhythmic. We all respond to rhythm. Look at little kids when the music's on, they can't even speak, but they're moving, they're moving to the beat. And so I look at it as, God lives outside of time, right? He lives in infinity. So I always thought of my gift as a drummer from God as like, you have infinity, right? And then you have time within time. You have thousands of years, and then a year. Then you got decades, years, and then centuries, and then you've got minutes, and then you've got seconds. And inside seconds, you have BPMs, beat per minute, which is what a drummer does, beats per minute. So I'm a gatekeeper of finite time, measurable time, in a way that makes people spirits come alive, and it is universal. I've been to the jungles of Ghana, Africa, where they don't speak the language, and I don't speak the language, but the drums made them jump alive. So everywhere I've gone, I speak the universal human language, which is rhythm. And so that's kind of a cool thing. It's a God thing, obviously he put that in me, but it's a great joy to go around the world and knowing with two little pieces of wood, I can hit something and make people feel happy.
Wow. Okay, I have to ask. I know there's so many, but one or two favorite memories of performing with an artist, and then of you maybe doing a solo thing. I mean, because I know you've done that as well. But what are like a highlighter? One or two of those that you're like, wow, I have to tell that story.
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, there's so many, but I always loved playing with my buddy Lenny Kravitz. I mean, because we're kindred spirits. We both are faith guys. We both love the Lord, and we both have a very, very deep connection when we play. So anytime I played with him was incredible. I did have a very fun, unique experience, and I talk about it in the epilogue of the book, where Jimmy, at the Tonight Show, and Jimmy Fallon asked me to sit in with the Roots. And it just happened to be on my birthday. And then after I do a solo there, and I literally end the book with this, but it's beautiful. You have to read the story of how it all transpired, because I won't go into all of it. But anyway, so it ends with me doing this drum solo, and Jimmy's got an ear-to-ear smile. And afterwards, he leads the whole audience into singing Happy Birthday to me. And so, like, how many people get Jimmy Fallon to sing Happy Birthday to you? And he said he was a big fan of mine because he followed all those groups I played with. Jimmy loves music.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's kind of a highlight. another highlight is how just music has opened different doors for me. And you know that scripture says, your gift will make room for you. And the other scripture my mother used to give me, diligent hands will not perform before obscure men; they will perform before kings. And so I remember once I got summoned on the yacht of Paul Allen. So Paul Allen was the co-founder of Microsoft. He was Bill Gates' partner. At the time, he was the 4th richest man on planet Earth. But he loved music, and he had heard about me and wanted me to come on his yacht and travel with him and record, because he had a state-of-the-art recording studio on his yacht, which was called the Octopus, $240 million yacht, most expensive yacht in the world. And I got to travel with him and record and play. And so it made me think of just like how God can do anything. So I once was the kid who dug clothes out of the drop-off box from Goodwill and Salvation Army. I mean, my brothers would hoist me in there, and that's where I'd find clothes, right? So I'm going, while I'm on his yacht, I was kind of like, God, you are God. You took me from the lowest of the low, and you put me among the kings of the earth.
Yes.
That is a king of the earth. You know what I mean? When you're the 4th richest guy in the world, that is the king of the earth. So just so many miraculous things happened, but they didn't happen to some kid who came from a well-to-do family whose father was a political it came from a kid with nothing, with a mother who was just struggling to survive. So that's why when people ask me, what 4 words would you use to describe the book? Could you describe it in 4 words? I would say it is heartwarming, heartbreaking, absolutely hilarious, and yet hopeful. You walk away with like, wow, like those feel-good movies where you go, because we're all an underdog in some way. In one way or another, we all relate to the underdog story because most of us are underdogs. And when we see ourselves in that film and that book, and then we go, yeah, I felt that way. Yeah, I was rejected. That I had to do that. And so it gives people hope. And it's a story of faith. It's a story of what God is able to do, not based on, how good you are. It's just based on your faith. My mother had incredible faith, and she instilled that in me, and I had this childlike faith, which I still do. I am still the same kid on the cover of the book. I'm just an older version, but I'm still believing for bigger things. This book is a dream come true. People ask me, how long have you been writing the book? Well, I've been working on it for 15 years, but in truth, I've been writing it for 50, because I'm 61, and I kept a diary starting at the age of 10. So I kept writing in my diary from 10 to 20s. There are many diary entries within the book that are absolutely hilarious. Some will make you cry, but I'm 10 years old. I'm not writing them to make. I'm not thinking I have a memoir. I'm just writing my feelings. And anyway, so it's really like the way I look at it is God's been writing my story my whole life, but I have agreed with him, meaning I believe you're going to do something amazing with my life where I can impact people. And so the whole goal of the drumming, the speaking, the teaching, the writing is really to impact more people with the story that God gave me. That's really it.
We've got about 1 minute left, but I want to, the scripture came to mind. I will set you before kings in high places.
Yes.
And I think that is a scripture for you. He has set you before. Real quickly, what are you doing now? Are you playing with a group? Do you have any concerts? Everything's lined up before we...
I am playing with Lincoln Brewster right now and recording with him, doing some live gigs with him. And then, of course, freelancing with a variety of people. Anybody in the world can call me at any point, so I'm always freelancing. But my biggest thing is really this book, launching this book. And then also I have plans to turn it into a movie and like a streaming series. So that is the next thing. I have an agent in Hollywood who's working on about to pitch that to different people. The vision was always for it to be a movie and to be a streaming series of some kind, because it's very episodic in nature. It'll be like a modern day Wonder Years, but really about a kid with this drumming dream taking place in the 60s, 70s, and 80s rather than in the 50s. But that's what I'm working on next.
Okay, you have to come back and talk about it, and bring Lenny Kravitz with you, okay?
Well, I was going to ask you, I don't have a yacht, but would you come and play on my pontoon?
In Texas.
I'd be happy. I think we might sink it.
It's been so good to have you with us, Zorro, and God bless you on this book, Maria's Scarf, and all that he has still for you to do for the kingdom. And you have a heart and you're willing to do it. So you're a here I am kind of guy, right? Here I am, Lord. Yes. And he takes you to do that. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Isaac, so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to be with you guys. I'm very grateful.
You're welcome.
God bless.
God bless. Hey, everybody. My name is Zoro, and I am the author of Maria's Scarf, a memoir of a mother's love, a son's perseverance, and dreaming big. And I am happy to be with you today on Faith on Film.
I just love that.
I know.
What a great interview. Wasn't that a good interview?
It
don't,
was.
Don't you feel like we could have got another half hour, Isaac?
We could do a whole series with him.
I mean, really. Lenny Kravitz? I didn't even know Lenny Kravitz was Christian. So I totally want to get him on the show. That is amazing how he knows Lenny Kravitz and closely, not just like, oh, I know him, but he knows him. Right. I mean, and it's so interesting too. We didn't even get to cover the fact that I remember when he played drums for Kim Clement. Now, for those who don't know who Kim is, he was a prophet. He has passed away. An amazing prophet. Google Kim Clement, and you will see just how, in fact, today, his prophecies are still on, talking about what's going on with Trump. He prophesied Trump would be president. He's prophesied so many things. So for a while, Zoro played drums for him too, which, so he's been in ministry. He's been in the secular world. His art as a musician.
Yeah. And remember in the interview, I said that I couldn't remember really where I had met him. I have a feeling it may have been in one of these, where he was playing drum for Kim Clement, because I directed a lot of the prophecy shows, if you will, of Kim Clement doing his music and prophesying. And I'm thinking maybe that might have been the place.
I love the fact that he said that he can take his drums anywhere. And even if they don't speak English, if they don't whatever, it connects with people. Right. It communicates with people. That shows you what worship music, what a beat can do. I thought that was a really powerful statement.
Oh, yeah. And I really, as a worship leader, and I know I said former worship leader, and former, I don't mean that I stopped doing worship. I worship all the time at home. I just don't do it now as my job. But as a worship leader, I really appreciated what he said about worship, because I totally agree with it. I mean, just whenever I just need to calm down or something, worship is what really calms me down and connects me to God. And suddenly my troubles seem to fade away. Isn't that a song?
I think it is. And I hope that was an inspiring story for single moms out there and for people who have lots of kids and children. And you think, what's going to happen to these kids? Well, look at that mother and her faith and how she held up strong. And like he said, lived in poverty. I mean, for many years. And how many times they moved and yet came out of that. That is such an overcoming story. That he came out of that situation of poverty and not having a dad, and then was mentored by the guy in high school and different people, and then became this famous, like he said, on a private yacht. I mean, wow, what a journey in life to go through.
I know, and what a great tribute to his mom,
Oh yeah, and that part Hispanic, Mexican culture and bringing that in. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And he said you have to get the book to find out his real name. Do you know I've known Zorro for years and years. He's never told me his real name.
I actually found out what it was. I found out what it was, but I'm not going to say it.
Did you find out? Okay, I want to ask you when we're off the air. I want to ask you because it's like, because I remember I used to ask, I'd say, why do you wear that hat? He goes, oh, it's just part of me. Zorro. Well, it's like Cher or whatever. You know what I mean? You have that name and then, But I love the way he told me he first got it. That was just so good.
All right. Well, that's it for today, Holly.
Great show.
Yep. We'll see you all next week.
We appreciate all of you guys. God bless.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. Also, go to our YouTube channel, Faith on Film TV, and hit the subscribe button and the bell for notifications on our latest Faith on Film shows.